Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Jim Soltis. He's Senior Fellow for Federal Civilian Solutions at Nobles. Jim, good to have you with us.
Thanks, Tom. Good to be here.
And our topic today is digital transformation. And this is a word that's on the lips of pretty much everyone in Congress who's overseeing federal agencies, every federal CIO, lots of program managers, the administration. But yet, there's hard to come by is a good, useful definition of digital transformation. You've done a lot of work in this area. What's your definition of it?
So the way I look at it is it's digitizing and transforming legacy processes, enhancing customer experience, and helping to reduce costs. So if you think about it from a commercial standpoint, we look at transportation, we look at Uber and Lyft, or from a music standpoint, Spotify, from entertainment, Netflix, things like that. So that's commercial definition of it, but then if you look at it from a government standpoint, it's really about trying to improve efficiencies with citizens and helping them to gain access to information that they need to do their work with the government.
Because in some sense, the government has been digital almost since the advent of Netscape in the mid-1990s. We had the e-government era where basically the government posted information online. Then that transformed into the ability to do transactions online with the government. So when you refer to legacy systems, it's almost we're talking about not so much the paper systems of the 50s and 60s, but maybe the first generation of e-government.
Right. We're talking more about changing forms online. Right. We're trying to look at what are the real citizens' needs, what are the agency employees' needs in order to do their jobs better. It's less about, hey, I just took this paper form and made it online. That's not what we're really talking about here.
Right. So what are you seeing in agencies? What are some examples of people trying to do this?
So if you think about the Treasury and IRS, obviously tax online and trying to help agencies and citizens interact, you have chatbots, right? People are trying to call in and they're waiting in line forever. But if you have instant online capabilities between a citizen and trying to get access to their information, you can use a chatbot to better speed up and get answers to them.
Because, there is the digital divide in some sense. So is one of the difficulties having these for the people that are connected and fully broadbanded, you might say, which is most Americans. But
Right.
There's still people that send in paper forms, may not have access. At one time, people could go to the library if they wanted to get online and for the web. So we're kind of, again, notched a phase from the way that was. But what do you leave in place, perhaps, even if you do this digital transformation?
So in terms of getting back to those who don't have access, right? So that if you can't really help them get digital solutions until we get the broadband solution figured out. But there are three components of digital transformation that we have to think about. There's not only the government to citizen, but there's within agency to agency communications and also the government to business. So all three of those have to be looked at. And if you think about, the Chief Data Officer Council just released a report in April, and they have some significant recommendations that agencies should look at in terms of data sharing. One of the key components they had is, well, we need to figure out how to expedite the agreement process between agencies. Another thing is improve data awareness. How does one agency know what another agency has? Or how does a citizen even know what data is being shared out there about themselves or about information that might be useful to them? A third component is the data trustworthy? So how do we, as looking at it from an agency to agency standpoint, know that, hey, I'm looking at census data or I'm looking at SSA data. Can I trust it? Can I use it to help me with my work within my government component of that agency?
Sure. So in some sense, some lessons were learned during the pandemic when there was a mass need to identify people, know what was going on, and have interagency data sharing for purposes of the benefits programs that Congress enacted that had to be funneled through federal agencies to citizen applicants.
Right. And when you're looking at getting citizens access, there's also the login process, right? How do you even authenticate the users? We've seen some of the issues associated with using facial recognition. And in some cases, that's had some known issues of, well, can we really validate or verify that this person is who they are? So the government really has to focus on, from a citizen standpoint, is it easy to use? Does it work? And is it user-friendly?
And getting back to the data sharing that you mentioned and data awareness, in some sense, in order to give better government to citizen service, for example, you probably need some good government to government data sharing to have a comprehensive picture for whatever application you might be deploying consists of. So they're interrelated, aren't they?
Yes. In terms of, it would be great if a citizen can go to one portal and be able to say, I want to see my Social Security information, I want to see my tax information, or if I'm getting Medicare or Medicaid, can I get that through CMS's website? But am I going through and logging in multiple times? Is the information being shared across so I can see it maybe all in one dashboard? Wouldn't it be great as a citizen I can see everything in one place?
So identity management then comes up a lot, say, in the zero trust context, but it sounds like something really important in digital transformation to ease that friction if your identity is known in a machine way, no matter where you go as a citizen, say, to the government.
Yes, and speaking of zero trust, that's making sure that people aren't getting into places that they're not supposed to, but in the same manner, you also have to make sure people can get access to what they need to get access to. So the two go hand in hand, and that identity management is key to making it all successful.
And on the government to business front, agencies have contract writing systems, and the standard federal contract has 150 or 200 clauses, whatever it is, it varies. And so agencies really struggle with contract writing systems and developing them. There's been some pretty famous debacles. That strikes me as a really ripe area for digital transformation, to take some of the long friction-causing process, automate it, get rid of it where it can be gotten rid of, for acquisition and, I guess for that matter, grant making.
Yes, so if you look at the President's management agenda, so priority number 3 was really talking about making the federal government work and for the citizen to the best way possible. And 2 components they highlighted were acquisition and grants. And speaking of grants, and the most frequent way businesses interact with the government is through the federal acquisition process. And many agencies today do it manually with spreadsheets and email. And so,
emailing spreadsheets is even worse, right?
Or even emailing spreadsheets. So a better way to think about it and do it is through digital transformation, is an automated manner to share information between government and business, to look, receive proposals in a secure manner, to answer questions going back and forth with secure communications. And in a lot of cases, the government brings in the right subject matter experts to do the evaluation, but they're not really, this might be their first acquisition. So another key component of the digital solution would be, how do you tell them, hey, here's your next step in doing the evaluation. Guide them through the process. Help them make sure that they're actually following the plan, that the source selection plan that was developed to say, hey, here's how you have to do the acquisition and do it right, so that nobody's going to protest, you can reduce delays due to those, and make sure that the government actually buys what it wants to buy.
Right, and there's a lot of compliance exercises that are necessary because of statute and regulation, but it seems like a lot of compliance activity can be automated, at least maybe 90% of it, so that, again, you can concentrate on the real task at hand, that contract, that grant.
Yes, so when it comes to compliance, there's all these clauses that are there. There's the shall statements that you see in all the RFP documents, and so there's an automated solution would look at, well, how can I make sure that the business is saying, I comply with these, here's how I will comply. Why have that done through a manual process? Why not have it so that they can automate their answers, automatically point to where in their proposal that's going to be located, and then for the government evaluator, when they receive all that, be able to go, oh, look, here's where it is, here's how I can evaluate it, I know where in their proposal it came in, it automatically pops up for me. So it smooths the whole process and automates that compliance piece of it.
It strikes me that the background clearance process, which has undergone a lot of transformation in recent years, to the point where now they have continuous vetting, and that's been coming in a wider and wider basis. That's almost a digital transformation in the sense that independent and government data sources are invoked automatically to make sure people stay in compliance with what they need to keep their clearance.
Yes, so if you ever filled out the forms that
I haven't had the pleasure personally, but
that the government has online, so it's a very long form that you have to fill out and then go through, and then there's obviously all the investigation that goes on beyond that. But how, like you said, how do you do the continuous vetting process? Are there automatic alerts and saying, hey, there's somebody at one of these contacts that we trusted as a reliable source? Are they now in question? Could that be something that an investigator could be automatically provided if something comes up for that? Or if something, an individual that did receive a trust, do they get an automatic notification that they are being investigated for something else? So again, a lot of places to integrate not only local government with the federal government, but across the whole set of folks that were part of the investigation process.
But somehow it always comes back to the data and the data provenance and the data trustworthiness.
Sharing, and the trustworthiness, yep.
It also strikes me there's a human capital side to this, in that you mentioned some of the commercial examples of digital transformation. Taxis became the ride-hailing services and so on. But someone had some real good imagination to come up with those ideas and then be able to engineer it to something that other people would invest billions of dollars in while they did it. So talk about the human capital requirements to be able to be regularized at digital transformation.
Right, so going again back to the President's management agenda, priority number one is all about the workforce and retaining and training and empowering them to do their jobs. So what's really great about digital transformation is not taking away people's jobs. It's contributing towards helping them do their job better. So if you think about, again, going back to that priority number one, they're enhancing and empowering cloud computing, collaboration tools, and automation. And so training is a big part of that. You want to make sure the workforce is able to use these new digital solutions, and also be able to get customer satisfaction scores just even from government employees to say, hey, is this helping me do my job better? Am I being trained well enough? So that from a human capital workforce or workplace standpoint, I think government employees will actually do better when there are solutions out there to help transform how they do their job.
Right, so that idea of, say, journey mapping, or looking at it from the applicant or the customers or the constituents or the employee's point of view,
right,
and what is it they're facing, applies not simply to people coming into the government from outside, but also, as you point out, the government to government and the government to business side of things.
Yeah, so the whole user experience is key to this. So if I'm an employee and getting a new tool and saying, oh, you can look at the user engagement scores, and also look at the executive and say, am I seeing higher productivity associated with the use of these tools in getting the job done for this specific agency? All those are key things to look at as metrics to make sure that the solution is actually working.
All right, some great thinking here. We're going to take a short break. My guest today is Jim Soltis. He's a senior fellow for Federal Civilian Solutions at Noblus. I'm Tom Temin. This discussion is Digital Transformation You Can Measure, sponsored by Noblus here on Federal News Network.